everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Vanessa. If you haven't been here before, this channel is all about fostering careers in real estate and growing real estate teams. And today's interview is part of a series I'm doing on exploring careers in real estate. So if you're into this kind of content, don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you like this video, give it a like. My guest today is Brandon Miller. And Brandon and I go back, I think, almost 20 years. Has it been almost that long?
It's definitely close to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It went quick. So that's why it's hard for us to count the years, but something like that.
Right? So Brandon is in title, and he and I used to run into each other when we were pitching our services in real estate offices back in Los Angeles many moons ago. And we're both in the same jobs, basically, all these years later. So when I was thinking about who to talk to about what it's like to work in title, of course, Brandon was the top of my list. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's just start with like the basics. So like, what is title and what does a title rep do?
That's a good question, because, you know, it's funny, if you're outside of the real estate industry, people know very little about the title insurance industry, which is kind of like a micro industry within real estate. And what is a title rep? People think I sell tile. So I like to basically say it in one sentence is we close the real estate transaction. So without title, you cannot close a purchase or even a refinance. So we're the last leg of the transaction. And when we feel comfortable that the deal is ready to close, we kind of stamp it with our seal of guarantee through an insurance policy that we charge. And then everyone is going to have peace of mind and they can legally move forward in their transaction. And we transfer the title from the seller to the buyer, and the buyer feels 100% confident that they have clean title, they say, in our business.
And so just to break that down for people who don't are like completely new to this. So the issue here is you might buy a house thinking you've purchased it from the actual owner, only to find out later that you didn't, and now you no longer own the house, right?
That's true. Correct. A lot of people don't realize how important just the ownership of the property is. It's one thing that you're buying a house with a nice yard and a pool and all the things that you fall in love with. And the last thing you think about is, well, how is the ownership of the house? What kind of liens are against the house? All the stuff that's like in computer systems and public records. So title companies, we're the ultimate access to public records. We search out everything there can be against the house, including, and most importantly, who the accurate and rightful owner of that house is, because we need to make sure that we're in escrow with the actual seller. And, you know, having done thousands of transactions over the years, I've seen just about everything where, you know, sometimes it's not the legal seller that we're in escrow with. And meanwhile, you have a buyer, you have a listing agent, a buyer's agent, you have a lender, all these people, title, escrow, you know, working. And then title, through our research, we're the ones who uncover, well, there should be a wife also signing off on the sale of this property. And to everyone's surprise, no one realized maybe this man was married or this woman was married, and they so conveniently left that information out. And guess what? The property can't close unless both of them sign off, especially in California. We're a community property state. So it doesn't matter how sneaky one can be, you need both to sign off on a property. So we've seen everything, but it's very important because, you know, we spot it out. We call everyone's attention to on title, and it's up to them to figure it out and us to try and help facilitate that.
Perfect. Now you mentioned,
I think I answered your question. Not sure.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Okay.
Now you're in California. California is like a country unto itself. Things are different in California. So how does title, how is title different in California versus other states?
I even take on transactions out of state, and we definitely all work a little different. California is its own country, like you said. I mean, Los Angeles County, we do more transactions here than whole states do combined. So in every state, there is title. For the most part, there's maybe a few states that don't require title, but you're always going to have title. You're always going to have realtors. In some states, they may not have escrow companies. In California, 100% you need escrow. And to replace an escrow officer, usually in the East Coast, they have attorneys. So attorneys act as escrow officers, and they handle like a lot of stuff even the agents would do. So all the counties and states work a little differently. I think what I like about working here in California, Los Angeles, is everyone kind of stays in their own lane as far as their involvement in the transaction. So title, we're just going to do title insurance, and we're happy with that, because quite honestly, I don't want to be an escrow officer. I love my escrow officer clients and I praise them, but it's a real challenging, difficult, emotional roller coaster of an industry in itself. And so they handle the transaction independent of title doing what we do independently. Whereas some states, they may like have it all together. So when people call me for title, they know it's just gonna be title. They're not gonna say, hey, Brandon, who's your favorite escrow officer? I don't, we stay away from that. But yeah, that way, I think everyone's best interests are covered, having everyone independent of each other.
Yeah, that makes sense. So,
yeah.
So what is a typical day like for you?
Oh man, that's the question. Are we talking about pre-COVID or COVID or
Fair
kind
enough.
of both combined now?
Yeah, right. So let's talk pre-COVID, because hopefully we'll go back to having office meetings and meeting face to face someday.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So pre-COVID would usually mean I'm wearing a tie. I wouldn't have this scruff on my face. And I'm out in the field, I always say, which is basically my territory. I cover Beverly Hills, Hollywood, the West Side, they call it, like, which is Brentwood to almost to Malibu, and large area. So I am out in the field wearing my suit and tie, being a part of the real estate community, which is basically real estate brokerages. And I'm really lucky and fortunate, after being in a business so long, that I've formed some really good ties to different brokerages. And that's always changing with, our evolution of real estate. So I'm in offices a lot. That's where the agents are working when they're not showing and selling homes. They have office meetings. Some companies will allow me to be a part of those office meetings. There could be anywhere from, 10 to 60 agents sometimes at these office meetings. And sometimes if I'm called upon, because title is a very instrumental part of the transaction, I always have to participate to know when to step in and join the conversation, and be a part of that environment. And so I'm always out, and I am ultimately a salesperson, but when you're in this business and you see the same people every week and you're around them and your friends and clients and so on, it's more of like true relationship industry. And so it's a lot conversation, but then turning into, is there anything in your transactional or business real estate world that you need my help with? And usually when they see me, it kind of triggers in their mind something that they need to ask about, something I can maybe help them with. So I move around a lot, which has been the hardest thing in COVID, when you like, I've never been like a behind a desk type of person. I learned that in my 20s. I lose attention quick or get tired if I'm just sitting in one place. So moving around serves me well and taps into my skill set well. And so I'm out and about, and I'm shaking hands a lot, and I'm doing one-on-one meetings, group meetings, lunches. It becomes very social sometimes at the end of the week or midweek, and it can turn into meeting clients for a drink and watching a game or something like that. So I miss that a lot, but part of me is kind of like almost glad to have this break. Like it's been a nice break to, I guess, spend more quality time at home. Got the kids, as you know, got my wife. So I've been getting a lot of family quality time. That's like an understatement. A lot. Yeah. Sometimes too much. And so, it's good. Like, I've been catching up on just taking care of myself and my body. And so that part's been good. But, like, as much as I actually kind of like the idea of where I can do more behind a computer now and be able to do stuff via Zoom, I definitely miss being out in the field. So it'll come back. So my typical day is running. I mean, I can hit up like, one day, maybe 7 offices, if I'm spending less than 40, anywhere from like 20 to 40 minutes in office per visit. So time goes by quick, which is good because, you're having your morning coffee. Next thing you know, it's the end of the day. So that's what my job and role is. That's why I was hired to come to Title, is to do that. Things definitely change throughout the day when I get phone calls, and that's another part of my days, being on the phone a lot with clients. And I call it putting out fires, is where I can step in and do problem solving and stuff.
So basically, you are trying to get the agent. It's the agent, not the escrow officer, who decides who's going to handle title. The agent wants to work with you versus another title rep to underwrite the insurance for that transaction.
Yes.
And you're passing along that information to the powers that be at your company to actually do the legwork of uncovering title, but then you're the one who's dealing with the issue with the client if something comes back.
Wow, you summarized it very well. That's a very good description. So I'm kind of like the point person, and yes, realtors are the source of business. Escrow companies can, have an influence, but again, they're being directed business by the agents. I'm being directed, so really the agents are the client base. So I didn't even talk about the competition factor. Any sales industry, big time competition factor. I mean, realtors compete at such a massive level. Yeah. Title reps compete. I mean, we could probably have our own reality show on, Title Thrones or Game of Title or right? Title Wars. You know what? That's another way of looking at it. It's an ultimate popularity contest. Every day I'm coming up in competitive situations, and ultimately what it comes down to is the realtor having different options for title is going to choose to the best of their ability, because they may not always be able to choose on a transaction who they're going to use, but when they do, which is like 70% of the time, they're going to choose a person they like, but also they need to trust that person, because it's a big transaction. It's a lot on the line. So they have to get to know that person well far in advance in order to feel comfortable to write them in their contract for that deal that they're trusting their client and their own reputation on the line. So yeah, so there's a lot of that. And so when people think Fidelity Title, they don't know where my office is. I have 2 offices, Sherman Oaks, Long Beach. I rarely go in, but the offices are big, a lot of staff there. I look at it as I need to not only support my agents, but I need to support my staff, because they're part of my team. All the money that I bring in through title orders, every title closed, we'll say it's like anywhere from a 2 to 7,000 fee. That money is used to pay a lot of employees at the office.
Froze a second. Say it again. So say the fee again.
So I'm just going to say the average purchase fee for title insurance can be anywhere from, let's say, 2,000 to 7,000. You know, so we're in LA, so we have super large transactions.
Yeah.
You know, I did the Playboy Mansion, which at the time was a record deal for 105 million. So obviously that title fee was very nice, but those are like grand slams that don't happen as often. So on average, 2 to 7,000. That money is really divvied up. So when I think about my title orders, for every premium comes in, it's paying a lot of jobs at our office. It's paying me, it's paying my manager. I mean, it's really, and then part of that money has to be used just to cover insurance for insurance purposes. So I take a lot of pride and responsibility, but those are the staff at the office working behind the computers, shuffling a lot of paperwork and moving around. I'm the point man. I try to bring in the business. So when it's opened, my name's on it, my team's on it, all the agents. And ultimately, every escrow is a little different. So things do come up, and it's not always title related that we're asked to do things. So when there's a problem, and people sometimes, agents don't know how to handle it or who to turn to. So I always offer myself as just start with me, whether it's title related or not, and I can point you in the right direction, or I can advise you or find out the answer for you. So I always offer myself to them as like the problem solver, the solution finder. So that's why I'm always the first person they call. They can bypass me and call my office, but they don't really know who's who over there like they know me. So they just look at me to handle it so that they can do what they do best, which is sell real estate. And I will focus on title and putting out fires is how I like to describe it. So that's where I do spend maybe like 30% of each day. You know, some days can be 10%, other days can be 100% just on the phone, parked on the side of the road, just on the phone, you know, navigating how to, you know, help with certain problems or issues that arise. So that's that takes precedence. So no matter what I'm doing, if I'm shaking hands, if I'm having a nice, well, it's hard to interrupt a lunch, but you know, all the fun stuff in my business has to stop if there's a problem that comes up, because that's the most important thing to handle. So that's where my day gets a little interesting at times, trying to navigate that. And then add COVID, add a wife who you're around more often, and screaming kids in the household. I mean, I've been put to the test like no other. And I'm sure we all have as parents, but
yeah.
So it's constantly like a whirlwind, but it's fun. You know, I love this industry. I wouldn't be doing it for so long, and it's a true career. So I'm blessed to, you know, have this business going on right now, especially during COVID.
Yeah, right. So how did you get into the industry? And if somebody else wanted to get into title, where do they start?
Right. That's a good question. So, you know, every decade is very different the way this industry changes. I mean, we've seen companies totally evolve, more technology driven and stuff like that. So when I came in 15 plus years ago, it was different because I like to kind of, if people ask what does title do, I sometimes compare it to pharmaceutical sales, but we're doing it for realtors instead of doctors, right? So in the beginning, you know, this part sounds really fun, and it's almost like teasing anyone that would ever think about coming title, but we don't have it anymore. But we had expense accounts, and it was legal for us at the time. And I had this for a good 6 years where, you know, you could spend money on taking agents out to lunch. You can have this allocated budget to go to the Dodger game, to go to the Laker game, to do all these amazing fun things. And I was like coming in, you know, like a kid in a candy store thinking, whoa, so I get to spend this amount of money every month to bring in business. And that was my job. So that's how I got hired. Fidelity Title is the largest. It took me a while to get to Fidelity. So I started with a smaller company, and I, you know, very appreciative of that opportunity I have. It was with a company called Orange Coast Title. And I got in through a relationship, just kind of like any other industry. And my aunt, who was a longtime realtor and she retired, was very good friends with the sales manager of Orange Coast Title. And she was like my first mentor, this lady named Cherie Clough. She's an amazing woman. And I had no experience in real estate. I did have two parents that were successful in real estate. My dad, especially, he was a big commercial real estate syndicator, real estate attorney, and so I knew about the industry, but I didn't know about title insurance. And so my dad was one of those people I asked, what do you know about title insurance? He's like, oh, son, that's a really good industry. I never really thought about that for you. Because I tried to do commercial with my dad and I did not like that. It wasn't for me, especially I guess working with my dad. So when title came around, at the time I was doing another industry in sales, but not like the type of industry I was truly passionate about. And I was around 30 years old, 29. And when it was described to me, I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds like totally fit for me. So I got really lucky because this lady, knowing I had no experience, but at the same time, there was no one she's had successfully in Beverly Hills as a rep, a title rep. And at the time, she's like, Brandon, I'm going to take you under my wing. I'm going to throw you right in Beverly Hills. Don't even worry about what title is. You'll learn a little bit. You're just going to learn on the way. And I'm like, okay. I just went with her guidance, and I was shadowing probably like 3 different title reps for like a month, and then boom, they just threw me right in there without any experience. And that was the best experience. Just for like, I was there for like 4 years, maybe 5. And I loved it. I was just getting to know a lot of people real quick, because I think the advantage at that time when I had budgets is I can put together happy hours. I can put together fun events. Halloween's coming up. So I did this amazing Halloween party. I kind of rented out a part of a restaurant. I said, come on, realtors. And I was shocked how many people came. Well, I'm hosting it, so it's fun. And so I had a few key people that were my advocate clients, because they're the ones that kind of sell who you are. And so they brought people in, and people haven't had fun like that in a long time. And so I kind of like became very like, in college at my fraternity, I was the social chair. So I basically used the social chair background in title for real estate. Real estate was my fraternity. And, I quickly met a lot of people, a lot of good people. Quickly became my friends. And I don't know, I a lot of it was a natural thing for me. And next thing you know, I was kind of rising up in the title world after starting to get some opportunities to work with a lot of big agents. And fast forward 5 years, I get recruited by Fidelity. And it was so hard to leave, because I was like, well, I'm doing well, I'm growing, I'm happy, I have good people. But the right mentors in life, gave me the right advice. And, I haven't looked back. And the mentor I have now, who's my boss, this guy's amazing, Rod Gordy. You probably met him at one point in time. And so he's been the best mentor. I'm so lucky that he's been with me this whole time I've been at Fidelity. So it's been a very good ride. So breaking into industry, I think I got lucky, because there was an opening. You have to start small. So that's what I did. They took a chance on me because I wasn't bringing any money in, yet they were spending money. And, it ended up being a good investment, because probably after 3 months, I was more or less breaking even or get money from me bringing in business. So that's really important. A title company is making money, obviously not just spending it. So I got lucky there. There's no way like a Fidelity Title Company or First American or Equity would hire a brand new person off the streets, because they really look at, it's a little different saying book of business, but kind of like, who's your book of business that you'd be able to bring over. So in our industry now, there's a lot of recruiting from other companies, just like in real estate, rather than hiring from scratch. So I get asked all the time. I mean, literally, it's like once a month, if not more, I'm asking, hey, Brandon, can I get in a title? And I've really tried hard to help people. And it's been, I realized by watching them and seeing how title companies work that it's changed over years, the way they hire. Because when I came in, I can have a quicker start by having an expense account like I was talking about. But what I didn't say, I was trying to, I just reminded myself. So 5 years in the business, there was a big vote that we actually all vote on the ballot. It was one of those propositions. And one of those propositions was to remove from the real estate industry, pharmaceutical industry, and a couple other industries, any form of, I guess you call it rebating. So any form of expense accounts like that, like that we had, they literally took away overnight. And we had to get thumbprinted and everything. It was a real big deal, real big shakeup in our industry, because you have a lot of realtors who are used to being wined and dined, and take that away, it's like they don't believe it, right?
Yeah.
So we went through that, and that was like a 2 or 3 year transition. Some agents still don't believe it's happened, but it has.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest change in our industry, because at that point, it's like anyone with a good personality can come in and probably make a dent fairly quick. So it really, I guess you could say, even the playing field at that point. And it became tough at first, but once everyone adjusted, this is business moving forward was, it became the new norm. But then title companies, that's when they started heavily recruiting to get in our industry, because they realized, okay, we can't hire this person, the great personality, no background in real estate, and have them rely on an expense account. So when that changed is how I think they started looking at their new hires strategy differently. And I'm not at all saying like it's impossible to get in a title, because I've helped people get in a title, but there's stepping stones now rather than jumping right in.
So what are those stepping stones?
So you could start in a different facet of real estate. Could be, let's say, an escrow rep. It's funny because I've almost helped like 2, maybe 3 people over 16 plus years, 15 plus years, start in the industry, not to join title, but they wanted to get in the industry. And I said, well, you know what? I think one of my clients, a big escrow company, they're looking for a rep, which is similar to what I do, but representing that brand of escrow company. And the introductions ended up working out great. And those people, most of them are still in the industry. Actually, I think I probably introduced like 4 or 5 over the years. And they got in, did well, they flourished. And I would never introduce anyone I didn't think could flourish. I'm not out there making introductions just to do it. Like, I have to feel there has to be a connection there. And I think I have a pretty good judge of character on that. And so those are good stepping stones. It can be a career in itself, and it is. But B, I've seen that actually it's worked against me, because I've had a friend who came in and then they joined title and, ended up being a friendly competitor. But at the end, that's where I do have to be careful, is because anyone I introduce in the business, like, who knows, are they going to end up competing against me at some point? And everyone in my industry thinks like that, we're happy to help people, but the possibility that they could end up competing against us. So that's where the quandary is a little bit. But I've helped people start off as like a title assistant, like a home warranty person. There's so many vendors in our industry. So I think the true experience doesn't have to be working for a title company, but working in the business of real estate industry as a vendor. And there's so many. I mean, it could be like, staging. It can be, a lender of some type. It can be, God, it's gotten virtual. These days there's virtual staging, virtual homes, photography. I mean, there's so many different levels, but they have vendors that do similar to what I do, and they speak in front of realtors, and they get to know realtors, befriend them. And I think that's the key. If you build a big network of realtors who like the way you are, then you become more attractive to whether it's a title company or another vendor in our industry. And then you've built value in their eyes. And it's true, you've built a resume for yourself, and then you can go for like an industry like ours.
Makes sense.
I think that would be probably the best way to do it. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, that's so helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess one other question people would want to know is, are you paid 100% on commission, or is it a base plus bonus structure?
Right. Good question. It really, at the first part of the answer is it's 100%, but it's I guess you call it, it's like a draw. So I'm always guaranteed, every rep is guaranteed a minimum amount per month. So I guess they call it the base. But if you're in this business long term, you have to be bringing in a certain amount of title orders a month, and then what they do is each month they deduct the money they paid you, your base, from that, and then they give you the difference, right, of that commission. So it really is 100%, because I bring in all the title orders, they take their money out, and so they're advancing me the money. Is how I like to look at it. But it's for me, it's a big peace of mind, I guess, just knowing, let's say, God forbid there was no business at all, I would still have that salary, I guess, to rely on, knowing it's there. It's more of a peace of mind thing. But I get benefits, so it's corporate America by all means. I'm a W-2 employee. I'm not 1099 like a realtor. Okay. So that's good and bad. It's good because I qualify easy on paper if I ever got a loan. So when I do my refis, it's easy to prove income and taxes, but I can't get creative like 1099 employees can with their taxes. Yeah. But we have really good benefits. I have, like the larger title companies are publicly traded. So I take every paycheck, there's a chunk that goes into buying stock, not a 401k, because I have that one too, and I believe heavily of all industries I've ever been in. I've always tried to invest in whatever benefit available towards my future, which is like 401k. And so they had to employ, it's a stock discount program, and most corporations that are public do that. So I put a decent amount every month in there. And our stock, I don't even look at it. I just, every now and then I'll get a statement. I'm like, oh, wow, stock's doing well, right? So my, the house we're in now, literally I was looking for a source of down payment. And this is 7 years ago. And I'm like, I wonder how much I have in that stock, because it's not a 401k where it's like, I can't take it out. I can take it out anytime. So I looked, and literally, to within $1,000, I had the exact amount of money I needed for my down payment. Wow. And so our company stock, Fidelity stock, which is FNT, Fidelity National Title Group, FNTG, because we own a lot of companies. We own Chicago Title, Lawyers Title. We own Carl's Jr. We own the hockey team, the Golden Knights in really? Las Vegas. Oh yeah, we own, our CEO owns like 20 vineyards. I mean, it's crazy. There's like literally over 100 companies they own, but we're all like part of this big, tremendous. They're like the 300 strongest company in a Fortune 500. So that stock allowed us to buy our house that we live in and we raise our kids. So it was really like, it was awesome just to see the power of that. So that was pretty cool experience.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brandon. This was great.
Oh.
I think this was a really good introduction into what the heck title is and what it's like to work in the industry. And, you know, I think you gave a really good picture of the type of person who would likely be successful in a role like this and who wouldn't. So I think that's really helpful for people who are exploring careers in real estate. So thank you. So, we have even more of these profiles on our YouTube channel. So make sure that you go check those out. If you're looking for jobs in real estate, for everyone listening, make sure to go to proreastaffing.com to check out our open jobs. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.